So, I've got this bench goal in mind that I have been trying to hit for the past probably 3 months or so. Um, to make a long story short, because of my back, I can't pursue powerlifting the way I want to, and I can't even pursue bench the way I want to because I can't put my feet down because there's too much pain and discomfort in my lower back for me to bench feet down. But I have found that I can bench floor press fine, and I can bench with my feet up just fine. So initially, I had a goal to help me return to strength. Like I wanted to bench 405, floor press 405. It'd been over a year since I had any type of weight that even close to it in my hands. I got back to 405 floor press pretty fast. Like I don't even think it took me 2 months to get back to it, and that was just um, progressively loading more and more each week. That was like step loading. That was all I did before. I didn't run conjugate or anything like that. I just every week I just added more weight and dropped reps, and I did that till I got up to 405 for single, and that came pretty quickly. And then I was like, well, maybe I can get back to feet down. So I tried benching feet down. No, wasn't gonna happen. So the next thing I could think of was I need to maybe try benching with my feet up. This presents a really good challenge because I've lost about 30 to 40 pounds. I'll be flat back, so that the stroke will be longer. Stroke will be longer because of my weight loss, and I have really long arms. So that presents a lot of challenges. And I started to figure out ways to build my bench up to 405 with my feet up. About a month ago, I tested my max and I got to 365, pretty smooth, and I tried 405 and I missed it about halfway up. I got about halfway up and I just lost steam. So I was like, oh, okay, this isn't going to be as easy of a climb as I thought it was going to be. This is going to be, significantly harder than getting back to that 405 floor press. So I started thinking of ways that I could strengthen my weaknesses. And from watching the video, it came off my chest really fast. And it's about the midpoint, like the very middle of the bench, not the lockout and not the chest, off the chest, but like that midpoint is where it slowed down pretty significantly. Generally, if I can get anything to lock out, I will lock it out. Like my lockout has always been super strong. It's been one of my best attributes on benches. If I can get my bench to lock out, it will lock out. So I've thought of all the things I've always tried in the past, attacking weak points and stuff like that. I've done the board work, above and below the sticking point. I've tried to increase my speed because Dave always talks about how maybe something you lack is speed to get through a sticking point, not necessarily strengthening that sticking point, but building enough speed off your chest so you blow past that sticking point. I worked on stuff like that, hanging presses, pin presses. I trained all sorts of stuff like that to help fix my sticking points. So I kind of wanted to think outside the box and stuff that I haven't tried. And recently I've been doing some reading, which if anybody knows me knows that I despise reading. I've never liked reading. I've never been good at it. And I recently read the West Side Book of Methods, which is not a challenging read if you have any familiarity with West Side. So I'm not saying I'm a genius and I'm reading books, but it's like I read that, and there's some sections in it about isometric training. And as long as I've been a power lifter, I've had the book Super Training, and if anybody's tried to read that, knows that it's damn near impossible to read. But I have found that it is a really good resource if you just want to find something specific. Like, for example, I was curious about isometrics. I wanted to learn more than what was in the West Side Book of Methods, so I just looked in the index on the book Super Training, and found there's a 7-page section on isometrics that I've been reading over and over again because shit doesn't stick with me. I probably read that section on isometrics and super training about 6 times. The sections in the Westside Book of Methods, same, and I could not sit here and tell you anything about isometrics. When I read it, it is like that shit makes sense. Like all the perks, all the benefits of isometric training, everything that it strengthens, the downfalls of it, like it all makes fucking sense. And I'm like, I need to try this. Like In my whole time in powerlifting, I've never messed around with isometrics. I've never had to. So if it's a card I've ever played, I should respond quite well to it. Like that's what my thought process was. So I came up with this plan of doing a 3-week wave, starting the pin press right about where the bar slowed down, give or take a little above, a little below where that was. And then I set up another set of pins right where my lockout would normally take over. So I basically isolated between 2 pins, the slow section of my bench, the weak section of my bench, whichever you would want to call it, slow or weak section. It's the section that I can't accelerate through. So what I did was I isolated that area. So I would start with the pin press, a couple inches off my chest. So you start with the concentric part, and I would press as hard as I possibly could into the pin above it, and I would hold that for 3 seconds, driving as hard as I could. Something that I added to it was I added band tension, because if you've ever trained with bands, you know that if you bench slow with bands, they are going to take over. If you bench explosive with bands, if you bench aggressive with bands, or lift aggressive with bands in general, you will blow through them. So I know that I need to work on being explosive off that start. Like I need to be explosive as possible. And me just saying to myself, okay, be explosive, that just doesn't work. You need to trick yourself, or you need to set yourself up for, okay, I have no option but to be fast and explosive, because if I don't, this lift is not going to go well. So the point of putting the bands on was it forces me to get in a mind state of I have to be explosive or this lift is going to fucking suck. So I've done one 3-week wave first, and I used the doubled mini orange band. And the first week I used X weight. I knew if I was going to go a 3-week wave that I would want to get to the end, that 3rd week, using a weight to where it was as challenging of a weight as I could get, as long as my bar speed was still good. So I kind of gauged where to start. So I started the bar weight kind of light. I didn't use like a percentage. Like all I knew was like if I picked a weight that I could destroy it the first week, and then the next week I would make a decent jump. And then my hope was once I got to that 3rd week, the weight that I had picked was still a weight to where it was as challenging as it could possibly be for me to do the rep ranges without losing bar speed. So, for example, the first week was 4 sets of 5 with 145 pounds. The following week was 4 sets of 5 with 185 pounds. And then the 3rd and final week was 4 sets of 5 with, let's see, 145 plus 235? I'm not good at math. 235. And that's where I ended for 4 sets of 5. But I also added a little more trickery to it. So once I initially did my 4 sets of 5, what I would do was I would remove the top pin, and then I would do another set, and I would still focus on exploding as if that pin was there. My goal was to build my acceleration as fast as I could, as if that pin was still there, and I wanted to blow through that fucking pin. So I did that with the same weight, same bands. And then the next set, I would add a little bit of weight, do the same thing. And then one more set, I would add a little bit of weight and do the same thing. And at that point, I would take the band off. So it's just the bar weight. And then I would do one more set where I would try to be as explosive as possible and just really try to push as if I'm really tricking myself, because I'm pressing as if I'm going to blow through that pin, which is no longer there, and I'm also blowing through it as if that band is still on there. So I'm really tricking myself to be as explosive as possible. In the first 3-week wave, Went awesome. I loved it. I wasn't as sore. I recovered faster. I remember that's one of the perks of isometric training, is the recovery is faster. Depending on how long you hold your breath and how long you press the pins, it could be pretty taxing on your CNS if you do too many minutes, too many total minutes of it. But I think I avoided that. It also helps build muscle mass. Those are just some of the things that I can remember the benefits of isometric training. And then after the 3 week wave, then I took a week to deload, and then the following week I tried my max, which is when I hit 365 pretty easy, and then I tried 405 and missed it. But I could tell that I was significantly stronger. I was significantly faster, more explosive off my chest and through that sticking point than what I was. So although I did not hit the 405, I hit a much heavier weight than where I was at before, and it was just faster, more explosive, felt so much better. So my thought process was, why not repeat that process but add a little more weight? Or sorry, not a little more weight, a little more band tension. So the little more band tension would really emphasize even more so that you have to be explosive. I used the exact same weight as I did the last 3 week wave on the same weeks. I just upped it to a doubled red band instead of a doubled orange band, and I did the same thing. I did my 4 sets of 5, 3-second press, and then I took the pin out, did a press, did 2 more presses, and then took the bands off and finished with a set with no band and no pin, just pressing concentrically off the first pin. And I'm now 2 weeks through that process, and I feel like, just visually from watching the videos and how it feels, like I am more explosive with the higher band tension than I was the previous 3 week wave. And like I said, I'm now 2 weeks into that 3 week wave. Next week will be the final week of that 3 week wave, and then I'll deload again, and then try for that 405. But it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of cool to tackle a problem with a different mindset. Like I said, I made it through about 13 years of powerlifting. I never did anything with isometrics. It was never on my radar. I never studied it. Like, I didn't do anything with isometrics, and it's a pretty well-known system of strength. And it was just never ever on my radar. So it was really cool, just a learning process. And if this significantly helps me, that means that's just another tool in my tool belt for myself and for my clients, the people I train. So I just kind of wanted to talk a little bit about this cool little, this experiment that I have with isometric training, and I'll absolutely update in the next couple of weeks and see how that's going. And I'll keep a record of this on my training log on the Elite FTS Discord for those who are a part of the Discord, and they can see the whole process, what I've gone through, the things I've done and stuff like that. So